If I made a tier list based on weapon looks alone, this would easily top the list. Helphen's Steeple is a weapon that alludes to some very interesting lore that will likely never be elaborated upon. Being a magical greatsword in Elden Ring, you know this weapon is going to be good. Yet, I'm kind of on the fence about it. More on that later. But first, let's focus on the positives. Helphen's Steeple has some crazy attack rating potential. The Ash of War is a buff, Ruinous Ghost Flame, that applies the swirling ghostly status effect to your weapon for a whole minute. The Ghost Flame, despite the name, deals exclusively magic damage, along with a healthy dose of frostbite buildup. Even the enemies that are immune to such a status effect can still be hurt by the extra magical damage that you get after the buff. Now, I understand that I call it a buff, but this Ash of War has a hitbox that can be used for a solid hit on any enemy. So instead of just buffing when there's a break in the action, get right in there as soon as your minute is running low and sneak in that extra hit. Also, don't be stingy with your FP. I ran 2 blue flasks and 95 FP on 15 mine with this build, giving us 5 casts of Ruinous Ghost Flame per flask. You might say the math doesn't work out since Ruinous Ghost Flame costs 20 FP, and 5 casts would be more than 95 FP. But as long as you have at least half the FP requirement for your Ash of War, you can still perform it. I don't know if the game explicitly states this anywhere, it's just something you pick up on when you play the game for a bit. Now for our stats. At level 150 we ran with 60 vigor, 15 mind, 24 endurance, 39 strength, and 60 intelligence. The dex scaling on the Steeple is negligible, so don't bother investing any points in it. With the wondrous scaling of strength and intelligence on this weapon, we want to two-hand it and pop that magic shrouding cracked tier in our physique flask. While the buff is active, gives us a whopping 1027 attack rating, all with no spells or talismans to help us. A frostbite inflicting monster with over 1000 AR sounds great, right? So why did I say I was on the fence about it earlier? Well, that goes back to the other magical greatswords I've used before. Death's Poker can apply Ghost Flame much faster and to a much wider area. The Darkmoon Greatsword has a magical ranged attack that can benefit from Godfrey's icon, and both of these weapons can make greater use of the Shard of Alexander than the Steeple. The one thing that it does have going for it though, is that it's the king of AR when R1s and R2s are involved, and still has that unrivaled look to it. If you want to see more elaboration on these weapons and more, check out the tier list I made a couple weeks ago going over every build I've done so far. Unlike that crazy woman from freshman year, I hope you stick around and subscribe for more.